I'm sorry, David, did you put this article in here?
Yeah, I have it. I have it. You
Okay.
want me to pull it up on the
Yeah,
screen?
let's pull it up. So basically, very good news. Jamal Bowman defeated Elliot Engel. And Elliot Engel was chair of the House Foreign Relations Committee. And of course, this was a major, he probably lost to Bowman because he was hanging out in Maryland as COVID ravaged through his district, because at a Black Lives Matter rally, he made sure to say not just once, but twice that he needed speaking time and he wouldn't normally care, but he was facing a tough primary. But some of the issues that did come up and then, were obviously, actually, Engel had moved sort of in a more progressive direction domestically. He co-sponsored Medicare for All, but Bowman clearly is, obviously much more committed and has a dynamism and a leadership to him that Engel is lacking. Foreign policy was there too. Elliot Engel voted for the invasion of Iraq. He opposed the Iran deal. He supported absolutely any Israeli policy, any violation of Palestinian territories, anywhere, anytime, any place. Pure far right APAC guy, and also an instrument on Latin America, coup mongering against Venezuela, supporting military cooperation with the Bolsonaro government in Brazil. Now, Just Foreign Policy, which people should check out, looks like, there's a conflict now between who will be the next chair of the committee, and the sort of more center-left progressive sort of foreign policy side is lining up behind Joaquin Castro. Now, I'm not enamored of the Castro brothers by any stretch of the imagination, but this is an important one to watch for a variety of reasons. And I'll just give you a brief introduction. And I'll tell you, I definitely think that Joaquin Castro, who, by the way, I said I'm not enamored. He's done some good things as well. And certainly what he's indicating is significant compared to the two other options. So we have Brad Sherman and Gregory Meeks. I want to talk about Brad Sherman first. Could you scroll down a bit, David? This is actually really interesting because Sherman, at first blush, is very much in the Engel mode. He's very right-wing in many respects. I believe he voted for the invasion of Iraq. I think he also opposed the Iran deal. Just a bit more, David. I just want to find the Sherman section. Yes, okay, so here it is. Sherman, the most senior member of the committee, but he's ruffled some Democratic colleagues, I'm quoting from the Washington Post, in the past. Like Engel, he voted for the Iraq war and opposed the Iran nuclear deal. This is interesting. I definitely support Castro, but I want to hear Castro's comment on this. In an interview, Sherman acknowledged his hawkish record on Middle East policy, but underscored his more liberal outlook on what may be the most consequential foreign policy challenge of the 21st century, the U.S. relationship with China. That's true. Scroll down. This is very interesting. The Pentagon needs a worthy adversary to justify a huge increase in budget, and China is it, Sherman said. He said the defense industry and other foreign policy hawks inflate the threat posed by China's construction of artificial islands and overstate the danger to international shipping in the South China Sea. Whenever the Pentagon has faced an irregular force, it's been a miserable experience, he said, referring to militias and terrorist groups. But whenever our military has faced a symmetrical, uniformed opponent, it's just been glorious. So it's not surprising the Pentagon is looking for a symmetrical opponent to justify a bigger budget. Now, Sherman's record is really not good, but I got to say that is important as hell, because the tension with China and the justification of those military budgets is going to be the predominant thing right now, and it must be fought against. It's enormously dangerous. I'm sorry, David, could you pull that article up?
Yeah.
So that's something to note and something to ask Castro about. Now, Meeks, he was right on Iraq. He was right on the nuclear deal. On the other hand, bad on Venezuela, and also, connected, I would say, a big advocate of corporate written trade deals. I think he's, and the article presents him. He's an effective politician. He's well liked, but totally inside the corporate Democratic Party. He's not going to ruffle any feathers.
Mhm.
Let me just down to Castro. What are you laughing at?
This line, this is like high school. You want to be good at making friends.
Mr. Meeks is effective at that. I mean, Meeks is going to be in a strong position. Castro, the most junior member seeking the position, said it's overdue for the committee to re-examine its mission and not shy away from challenging politically powerful interests and rolling back America's military commitments. Our Foreign Affairs Committee needs to catch up with where Democrats are in foreign policy, he said. Over the years, there have been top many, I'm assuming that's too many voices excluded. I think too often Palestinian voices have been excluded. If the United States is going to be an arbiter for peace, it has to be willing to hear from a different side. In my estimation, we've not always done that. So, I mean, that's completely obvious to everybody. That's still a significant statement for somebody who wants to be chair of foreign relations. I mean, that's not what somebody's saying when they want to get that gavel a couple years ago. So we'll continue covering this. And I know that there's some left energy around Castro. I want to hear the China statements as well, because that's significant. Brad Sherman has an awful record with regards to Iraq, Iran, and the broader Middle East, but he's accurate about China. And of course, Castro talking about reinvent, and there was another segment in the article where he talked about reimagining the purpose of the committee. Let's get back to diplomacy. Let's think outside military terms. That's, of course, of core importance. And I know that some of the energy around him is thinking very constructively with regards to the Middle East and Latin America in particular. I want to know a debt relief agenda. I want to know, an Africa agenda. And then, of course, the ecology embedded in all of it, as well as labor rights. You guys have anything to add on that?
I mean, it's just that, it's interesting. I mean, this is just a general note. I think the terrain is definitely shifting. I mean, we're seeing it. It's going to be curious, like the terrain and just like the way that what people signal when they want to come into power, whether or not that's going to mean like material changes is one thing. But like, we're going to have to learn to reacquaint ourselves with, sort of like buzzwords and things of that nature. Because I do think that like the way that politicians is changing, I think that, there's been a shift that doesn't necessarily mean a material shift, but like culturally we're in a different kind of politics. It's definitely like the whole end of history narrative is like completely blown out of the water. And I think something new is developing, whether or not that's good or bad, we're going to have to be able to analyze, but you can certainly see that there's definitely political shifts that are going on. It's hard. I don't know. It's hard because it's like, you can't, you focus too much on the rhetoric and you get lost because then you're being controlled by whatever they're trying to present to you, which is always different from what they're actually doing. But I mean, it's definitely massive. I think that there's definitely something going on.
Absolutely.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.